Hello, welcome to the 120th episode of the Sawdust Nation podcast with your hosts, myself, Nick from NPG Creations, Josh from North Country Woodworks, and is it Woodworks or Woodworking?
Woodworking. It's only been,
I don't know. It's only 120 episodes. And Nap from Nap's Naughty Works LLC.
Hey.
No guest tonight. We're raw dogging it with the three fellas here. And just gonna spit some game from what's going on in our shop. So I think I'm gonna start off with Nap. What's going on in your shop, man? I think you upgraded something recently, didn't you?
I wouldn't say so much as upgrade as I actually upgraded my work ethic in the shop. No, there's upgrades to be had, but it's more of in the works at the moment. I had another maker reach out to me, and it's kind of sparking me to want and start this upgrade a little sooner. However, I got a lot of laser work first before I can go into the next laser upgrade, and I'll talk about that here shortly. And the other maker. But there's a lot going on in the shop. This past weekend, I got real busy. It's a 4-day work week, or 4-day weekend for us, which means 2 short weeks. Not everyone gets those on the holidays that we have off, but we did, and I capitalized on them. I was able to work on 5 projects simultaneously, which all of you that actually look at my reels, all 4 of you that like and share my reels. I had 5 projects going at the Air Force Ball glasses, which I think I got like 175 left. I realized that laser was just taking, not that it was taking too long. It's just I got so many left, and it's not due till the 29th that I was like, you know what? I need to start knocking out some of these other jobs, or at least getting them lasered. So while I work finishing work, I can throw the other glasses on the rotary and work while it works. So heritage boards are etched, and I just got to sand, chamfer, and finish, put hangers on the back. The wall hanging signs are like the section signs for that dormitory, basic military training, are currently being etched. There's actually one on the laser right now as we speak. Those take about an hour a piece just because they're fairly larger carves, and I probably could speed it up, but I wanted to make sure that I had a deep enough engraving to where I sanded it, there was no detriment to the engraving itself. So that's going currently. I can check this off my planner here, which I started using my planner again because I was using this for a while, just a piece of mail and just writing stuff on it. And I was like, you know what? My kid started writing on it. My kid can actually write now. So I'm like, okay, I need to actually put this in my planner where he can't touch it. So I went and racked and stacked all my jobs. And now that I'm looking at this, between back burner, long-term, and current jobs, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 jobs, which I was like, oh, crap. That's a lot. And so I realized I had to get to work this weekend. So I finished that flag. It's going to be out the door probably tomorrow, either tomorrow or tomorrow's Wednesday, or Thursday. I got to finish the Air Force Ball mementos, which I said 175 left of those. I have to do 2 mugs and 2 sets of coasters, which I already etched the coasters. I just got to chamfer, finish, put the cork on the bottom, wrap them up, send them on their way. And then long-term jobs. So I have 2 big shadow boxes. One is the Hap Arnold. That's what I spoke about last podcast. I haven't started it yet just because waiting for her to send me all his stuff, because I am going to actually mount everything in the shadow box. So I want to make sure I make the display area big enough, but I need the stuff to lay out to kind of get a rough measurement. The other one is for someone back at my last duty station. He wants something a little different. I'm kind of interested to see what sketch he gives me. He's a heavies guy by trade, or buff, or whatever you want to call him. He's worked on the 135s, and I want to say, what's the other fueler? Josh.
KC-10s.
KC-10s, that's right.
KC-46s.
So you want both of those air...
You have KC-10s and then the KC-46s that just rolled out within the last...
Yeah, so he didn't get to work on them. He's an older head, so he didn't get to touch the new, if you will. But he wants the 10 and the 135 somehow integrated into his shadow box. Whether it's like a silhouette with some laser engraving, I'm not really sure yet. I'm kind of trying to see where his head's at with that before I get started.
I got those schematics of both planes I could send you, and you could put those on there somewhere.
Yes, we might talk, because that actually might be a pretty dope idea. We'll figure out what he wants, though, as far as like orientation. Not quite sure yet. So I got a little while for that one, though. I think that one's going to be, I want to say end of November. And then I got this other not odd, but interesting. So it's retirement gifts for the kids. So he went to a retirement and he saw these little shadow box things. I was telling you about the mini shadow boxes. So they're mementos for the kids that have like the spouse slash like children ribbon in it. You know what I'm talking about? The medal for the kids.
Mm-hmm.
And then a plate with their name and some stuff on it, like a little thank you message on it. But they want them a certain way. And when I looked at them, I said, hey, do you want these colors? He wanted like the Air Force blue and the silvery white or whatever that was for the stripes. I was like, do you want this or can I do this? So I showed him one of my previous shadow boxes with the walnut cherry mix. And he's like, no, she wants these. I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to tell you that those aren't wood. Those are definitely MDF because the way the paint was finished on them. You can just tell, like, between an MDF and a wood. It's just what it is. And it wasn't pine, because pine, you can generally make that look pretty sharp with, paint and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not using pine. And I've yet to really use MDF or anything, so it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. More to come, but they're making 4 of those. I don't know if he realizes, but they're not going to be cheap. It's someone I know, so I don't think he realizes these aren't necessarily going to be like, hey, these are $50 jobs. Like, no. You're having me make 4 mini shadow boxes while painting and all this other stuff.
If you need a little tidbits on MDF, that's what I started with my CNC, so I might be able to give you some insight. I don't know how much work you've done with it.
I'm going to tell you what, Josh, not a whole lot, dude. I know you got these like sanding, sealer to seal the MDF and all this shit, make it like, smooth, all those things.
It's not complicated. You pretty much, as long as you seal it, because if you just spray on it, it's going to soak right in.
Yeah.
And then make sure you have your dust collection going because that stuff gets everywhere. Have some mask on.
It looks like Desert Storm when you're cutting MDF.
Pretty much. It's one of the reasons I stopped doing it. So,
well, on that too, so I'm probably going to I don't know how you do two-tone, but what I planned on doing was, how like, okay, you do like a solid color, right?
Yeah.
And then you carve into it and then you do, you have ore mask over it and then you paint, behind it or whatever. I might do that because it's two-toned again, but then again, I could just do it all in blue and then just sponge paint the stripes. I'm just not very partial to that because it can get messy, and sometimes if you're not careful, you'll end up just bleeding over the edges, and it's not a clean look. So it's going to be something different to me. It'll be cool when I'm done, I'm sure, but I just need him to send me sizing and, some more pictures of the item because I got to, you get the, patented over the top, right over the, top aerial view of it, and that's it. And you're like, can you make this? Like, yeah, I can make it, but I need a little more detail than just, hey, make this.
You can't do it from looking at it real quick. And
I mean, typically you can, right? But because you can have your own, like, what is it? Creators, autonomy, I guess, where you can just kind of do whatever you want with it.
Yeah, I don't get that license.
There, thank you. I couldn't find the words. Thank you, Nick.
No worries.
And it just sucks because I was like, okay, so I don't really know. You're telling me I'm the expert and you want me to do it, but I don't get to do what I want with it. So it's going to be interesting to say the least. And then my back burner jobs, I got 4 decanters. I got an etch for my dad. I've been kind of sitting on that one for a while. That's actually really quick. I just haven't done it yet. The project for the MTI, the remake, I told him, hey, man, I haven't forgot about you. I just have orders ahead of you right now. When I have the spare time, I'll make. He's like, yeah, dude, no problem. So he's very understanding, which is why I'm actually going to hook him up. I'm probably just going to charge him shipping, to be honest with you, because, again, you know how I feel about him having to pay for his own thing. And then I got 2 troops that are leaving, and I'm going to make them a little something. Nothing crazy, but just something small, like as a token of, hey guys, thank you for your hard work type deal. So those are the jobs going on in the shop. I have a feeling after this flag goes out to the Munn Squadron, the jobs will take off a little more. I have a couple other ones that are kind of in the far future. I'm still trying to figure out if I actually want to take the jobs or not, just because, I don't know. I just have this thing with, like, hey, we want you to make something like this, but then like this. We want it this big, but we want this too. And I'm like, okay, this is not, like, I told them the rough prices and they kind of gave me a look. And I was like, this is going to take some work, right? Like, this isn't just like, here, let me glue this stuff together real quick and call it a day.
You know
So
as well as all of us, man, that people don't realize how long things take. They're like, oh, I need it tomorrow.
yeah. So I'm dabbling back and forth with other clients as well. But then this upgrade. So between other than my work ethic, because yes, the past couple months have been awesome, just being able to upgrade the shop, build it up, do all the things, get everything set up. But then it came a time I was like, okay, enough BS and enough watching every Netflix season, playing video games and all these things. I probably should actually get to work and do some things. So kind of got a little re-energized on that front. It was nice coming home and just being like, yeah, I got to go in the shop and do this. Like it was like normal being back in San Antonio. And then the actual upgrade. So my laser is doing well. It's night and day difference from when I had first gotten it. Put this new mirror in there, has some new lenses, all those things. But the next upgrade I'm looking at is a new air assist. So air assists are interesting because you can't just take any air compressor, hook it up to your laser, and hope it works, because that's just not how that goes. The air compressors that we have, those little silver ones that have like just a tube that comes out that runs constantly, and most of them are actually fairly silent. You really can't hear them, but sometimes they don't push enough air because how small they are, through the hose and through the system and to the nozzle. Well, for most folks, a lot of people understand that the air supply that you have actually plays a huge factor on what you can cut through, how fast you cut through it, and the level of burn or scorch on the edges, depending on your power. So, believe it or not, if you're cutting acrylics, you actually want super low airflow, like 5 psi max. But then to etch it, you want like 35 psi, which a little weird, but that's what's recommended. But then cutting through wood and plywoods and those things, like 15 to 20 psi. So when you have a constant airflow, you really can't regulate that. So what I'm looking at is, I'm not necessarily saying like a California Air or anything like that, but something a little more powerful that will give me a little more juice, but then also has a regulator that I can actually tune in myself.
You're going to want something that's quiet. So California Air might be your best way to go with that.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's not off the table, but there are other air compressors out there that have a silent, quote unquote, technology. Okay. You don't necessarily have to pay for California Air to get that.
You can get one from Home Depot for pretty cheap. They make the husky silent flow. I know they have, depending on what size tank you're looking for, they got small ones all the way up to the big ones.
Yeah, so a 50-gallon, I think, or not 50-gallon, that's too much. What did the guy say? He said it was like 50 something or another. I can't remember what unit of measure he used, but it's not a big one. Just put it that way. It's not a stand up air compressor like the Cobalt that I have. That one's relatively silent, but there's more to it than just hooking up a regulator and all those things. There's actually like a solenoid that has to go get installed to regulate the actual airflow coming from the compressor. There's a couple valves and some air and water separator stuffs and all the things. So I'm looking at a CloudRay Ultimate Air Assist. I've been getting a lot of my upgrades from CloudRay just because they're pretty universal for the lasers that we have. And that's another part of the topic. So I was listening to another podcast, and they were talking about laser stuff, which is kind of what sparked a lot of more of my research. I don't think a lot of people know this, but in Lightburn, you actually can do a step down in the middle of a cut, like programmed into Lightburn. There's some settings you can set to where your Z will actually step up or down based on what you're doing, which typically we're stepping down. We want the piece to come up. Mm-hmm. And the reason for that is because that whole focal length thing that I've talked about way back in the past, just about having the optimal focal length to have the smallest laser beam to do the most fine cuts. Well, I found out that you can actually make it to where if, let's say I have 2 passes, I can have the Z motor step up so far to continuously have that fine laser beams.
Don't you want it step down though?
Whatever way,
on the second,
Z,
so the second
Z
pass
comes up. So like because the gantry doesn't move.
Okay, yeah. So you're talking about the bed. The bed raises up just a C hair to get that focal point to where it was when it was touching the surface. It just goes below the surface now because you've already scored the surface through the first pass.
Right. And one thing they mentioned on and it was the Maker Lounge podcast, right? It's Matt Voltner's podcast. And that's what kind of sparked it. I was like, he said, you have to stop it and then adjust it yourself. I was like, I heard something about maybe being able to do that automatically through the program. So, of course, I did the research and I was like, oh, yeah, look, there it is. Sure enough. I haven't tested too much with it yet because I'm working on jobs. But when I get time, I'm going to mess around with that a little bit. But the purpose of it and why I kind of took interest in it was one of the individuals stated that when you are making those multiple passes, eventually, depending on the thickness, like half inch, we'll say, it'll start to make the edge where instead of being straight 90, it'll start to do this number because the laser beam is getting bigger. So it's starting to burn a wider outline, if you will. So that's why you'll notice sometimes if you go to do a sanding on the edges, you'll notice like one part of it will disappear really fast, but then the other part's still kind of there. It's because of how it's burning. So I'm going to mess around with that.
The beam widens past the focal point. You listen to the podcast. I listen to the podcast, dude. That was I like Matt's podcast, man.
Oh yeah. No, solid podcast. It definitely inspired some research for sure. Cause I was like, I want to know this information. So when people ask, or if anybody comes to me, I know the information.
I like his format too, man.
Yeah, the yes or no thing. If y'all listening to the Sawdust Nation podcast haven't heard the Maker Lounge podcast with Matt Voltner and his guests, definitely take a listen. It's got some good stuff in it. I like their yes and no game that they do. Just one example was like roundover versus chamfer, and the answers are funny because they start getting in on each other on roundover versus chamfer. So I think it was pretty fun.
But, he has some really good guests too. Some really good makers in the community. Josh, do you listen to it yet?
I have not. I haven't had time to listen to it, to be honest with you. Oh, man. If I would listen to it, I want to be able to sit down and do it. And I've been playing catch up, so.
And I think that's what the ongoing theme is, like, really for myself. And I know you, Josh, for sure, because you're just getting off of being freaking deathly sick. Cough is still lingering, but that's literally what this weekend was for me, was catch up. Had the podcast on and was just working in the shop. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's good stuff, just listening to them. So, yeah, if you haven't, give it a listen. You're in for a treat for sure. But that's the upgrade that I'm working on. My kid is screaming in the background. I don't know what he's doing.
What is that? I'm like, is there a...
Yeah, I don't know. He's just doing whatever he's doing. So I'm about to go tell my wife to keep him quiet. Wait.
I thought that was a pulley on a car that was loose.
Nope.
Chad brakes.
A belt that was loose.
Yep, she already took care of it. She yelled at him. But yeah, that's what's going on in the shop, guys. Yeah, I got a little more stuff going on, but we can talk as we go through the podcast. Most of it's just shop, finishing up the shop as far as mudding and everything. But Josh, buddy, what you got going on in your shop, man?
Well, as we kind of already hit on,
Matt's background sounds like wild animals in the background.
Kids, man, you gotta love them. Anytime you're trying to do something, it feels like sometimes they sense it. But
I'm lucky enough that I'm lucky enough my kid doesn't come running through after taking a bath like stark naked. So
lock the door.
Yeah.
Oh man, yeah, this is part of the whole shebang there.
Literally, freaking just got done showering, sitting there in this towel, just making all the noise. I'm like, dude, stop. And my wife goes, "What's going on?" I'm like, "I'm on the podcast." She goes,
"Yeah."
Oh, I was like, "Oh,
it's Tuesday."
Just every Tuesday at 8:00, I'm just in here, talking to myself,
Yeah, being dead's great. But, okay, so what's going on in the shop? So we already kind of went over a little bit, playing catch up. So I've been knocking all the jobs out that I got when I was sick. And basically getting in there and mass producing everything I can. Trying to dial in my laser a little bit more because it hasn't been cutting like it was. I've been noticing it has been off since there was an incident with it.
What was that incident, Josh?
My wife's listening. She crashed it into the bed.
Hey, it happens to the best of us.
It does. And she was still learning. She does pretty good at it. And I was mad at the time, but I went and I did a quick alignment on it and it seemed okay, but I should have spent some more time on it because I went back through on one of the dials, the nut wasn't totally tight. And through it moving, I lost calibration. So long story short, it's okay right now. I definitely want to spend more time with it and dial it in as much as I can. But it's definitely cutting where I need it and engraving where I need it. And I needed it today. So
Quick question, Josh, just real quick. When we were talking earlier about that, now I know you said you got your 1, 2, and 3, like, from laser to mirror to mirror to mirror done. Did you end up checking your nozzle, like your mirror that going through the nozzle?
So I'm not gonna lie to you. I forgot how to check that, but I did it in what I thought was common sense. I did it a pulse, got a dot, raised it up, did another pulse, and it was like 1 millimeter to the left. It wasn't that far off.
Okay.
I definitely want to look it up or even talk to you or Nick or someone out there to get it more dialed in than what it is. Basically, I know I can get it better, but I needed it today because I thought I was going to deliver that shadow box and I was cutting the back. Come to find out, when I was running around with my head cut off, he messaged me in Etsy saying he couldn't do it today. So I have to meet him tomorrow.
Thanks.
But I didn't know that till when my wife came home and she told me. And I'm like, no, I just texted him. And she was right. I should just listen to her. But I got to ship out 2 different things to, I think, South Carolina and 1 to Virginia. No, Connecticut. And they should be hitting out. It looks like I will be doing the Captain America shield plaque. They said payment should be around Friday. So once I get that, I'll be ordering everything I need for it. Once I get the money, essentially, I'm going to order everything I need and start working on that. I think it's going to be a pretty cool project. It is going to be mostly acrylic with a border of walnut or cherry. Haven't decided yet. And that's going to go to a gentleman that's working at the Pentagon, which I haven't set anything here quite yet. So it's pretty cool that they reached out to me for that project. Like upgrades in the shop as I went along. And I did them because as I was going along, I noticed there were things that would make my life easier and allow for faster progress. And simple things that don't take long. 0 clearance insert for my miter saw. And those don't take very long to do. I had the scrap wood for it in front of me, and I just knocked it out in like 15, 20 minutes. And it definitely, from there on, it just made my life much easier. So it was simple stuff like that. I went ahead and kind of cleaned up the other computer mount, painted the pine black to make it look matching the rest of the shop, and little stuff they're out there. Been cleaning up, moving stuff out, getting it behind there, vacuuming. And once I kind of do that for the entire shop, I'm going to blow it out and, start fresh. And that goes with the laser too. I like to go through there and try to get all the dust out because, it sits there and, try to keep it as clean as possible. So basically the only other order I need to complete that's already been paid for is the military working dog one, which Patreons, I'll go get that real quick to show you. So this is what I got so far. There'll be a choker chain for a dog hanging down, and then a collar and a plaque, kind of similar to one of the first ones I made them. With this, I was going to do an engraving, and that's what they paid for. But I've been doing projects for them for, I don't know, quite a few years. And I wanted to try to do some acrylic work with them and see what they like. And I showed it to one of their guys, and they loved it. So I'm hoping that maybe I can step up a little bit and do that for them here and there. I like how this one turned out. I will say, with that many pieces, it was a project. I literally turned on Rick and Morty, sat on the couch, my chair, and I put pieces. I basically engraved outline of where everything would go, a very tiny outline, so I can basically put the pieces where they needed to go. So I wasn't kind of like trying to line it up with the acrylic shell or anything like that. And I think I did a fantastic job. I'm not going to lie. I was sitting there and looking at the picture and putting it together, and yeah, it was fun. So, what else? Yeah, that pretty much sums it up. Just knocking out those projects that were due. Might have a new one coming in. We'll see you on Friday. I've been making things for people out of state. The last few projects I've been out of state, and hopefully this next one. So I'm kind of hoping that continues. I don't like shipping. I hate it. But when it comes down to, I'm making it for squadrons and units and, battalions, whatever, all around the United States now. And my name's getting out there. So if I keep doing things right, who knows? I might have to get better at my shipping game, and that'd be part of my workflow. But I had an idea, and we've mentioned it before here on the podcast. And I was thinking about taking the laser and creating box shapes, commonly used box shapes that I use, and basically getting cardboard and making my own boxes. If I can somehow get it black or a white cardboard and then utilize the laser to make my own boxes that way, it's going to look a lot better than what I'm doing currently. And that's what I'm going for. If I'm going to be shipping more, I need my packaging to look better. So, and that's, unfortunately, I don't have a standard package. A lot of my stuff is different dimensions. So having that and utilizing the laser like that will probably do 85% of the stuff I need. So that's something I'll be looking into here. Even if I have to create the files myself, that I think will be worth it in the end. And I don't know. I was thinking about maybe spray painting the cardboard black, or figuring out how to make it black myself. And then the interior, I get the little like shredded white paper, kind of like my colors. I'll figure it out. I might even do a stencil where I spray paint the box black and it'll be my stencil when they open it up. I'll figure it out. If the shipping continues, Etsy orders continue like that, you'll be seeing something on my page from me trying to figure it out. But other than that, I've been doing some 3D printing. I had to get some more filament for one of the jobs I did. So I've been making floating bookshelves, essentially, where it's just like L bracket and the book sits on top of it. And it looks like the books are just, floating. So I've been doing that. I also did a little jig or a little holder for my gloves. It was a little too small. I will have to go back and kind of resize that to make it work. But it's okay. That's why I got the printer. I could just redo it. But yeah, that's about it. I got some new stuff I'm trying to work. I've been saying it for weeks, but now I'm in the shop. I might be able to actually do it. So you might see some of that come out. I'm hoping I can get it knocked out and just so I can start showing people what I can do. I have most of the files already designed. I just need to get the acrylic and the wood for it. It's going to be a mixture of both. And I'm going to do a painted version and an acrylic version just to see what I like better. I definitely like where Nick has been using his acrylic, but I haven't painted anything in a while, and I want to just see the difference, especially cost comparison too. So that way I could better price things. So with that, maintaining the website and all my pages, trying to make everything streamlined, with backgrounds and pictures and stuff like that. That way, when people visit my Etsy or my webpage, it's one continuous flow. It feels like they're almost the same platform, so they can recognize my brand. Because that's a big thing, people recognizing your brand and what you have. So, yeah, that's about it. Just catching up, trying to get some new products designed and made, and then looking forward to that Captain America shield. That's going to be probably one of the bigger acrylic jobs I've done, and it's going to be mostly acrylic. So it's not going to be all that crazy, but it's still going to look cool. At least I hope it will. But with that, I'm going to go ahead and toss it over to Nick and see what's happening in his shop.
Well, sorry. Well, like always, busy, man. I just, it's never ending. And then I'm not complaining, but there's a lot going on in the shop. I'm gearing up to start. I'm finishing up a lot of smaller plaques, as well as a couple of shadow boxes that are going out by the end of the week. And I'll start on a coffee table. I typically don't do a lot of furniture, but that coffee table I think I can handle. It's going to be out of ash. So, white ash.
A nice piece of ash.
I have a lot of 8-quarter ash cut into dimensions that I need. Well, oversized, a little bit oversized for the dimensions that I'm going to need. But I still have to mill all that stuff down. It's been sitting in my shop, just kind of acclimating for the past month. I did make some moves this past weekend. I was trying to get in the shop this weekend, but there was an opportunity that arose for me to upgrade my. I don't want to say upgrade, but I upgraded my truck. So, but I did it. I don't know how to put this. There's a couple things I need to do, or I wanted to do, and this is one of my goals, was to get my vehicle listed under my business. And this way I can, like, it's not only just a tax write-off, but it's also for debt to income ratio for my personal credit as well. So I use the truck a lot, and I use it a lot for hauling lumber, carrying projects for delivery. And I was putting a lot of wear and tear on my old truck driving a lot, because I have a customer that I service up in High Texas. So that's like an hour and a half drive each way. So I figured, why not? I'll just go ahead and do it. So I ended up upgrading, got a 2021 Ram, and I'm pretty happy with it. Pretty happy with my decision. And yeah, other than that though, man, I'm just plowing through these orders. My Instagram's kind of been dark for a week.
Yeah, what the hell?
Yeah, I know, man. It's really just with my day job and everything, all the orders I have piled up right now. I'm really kind of just I'm trying to take December. I don't say take December off, but not accept any orders for December. Any more orders for December?
It's hard. Like, Instagram gets difficult when life gets busy. Even getting back into it, I don't want to steal the spotlight from you when you're doing your shop, but it's been difficult making stuff for Instagram, just because once you start doing it, you start seeing things like, oh, this would be good content. This would be good doing this. I need to do a story, and just kind of flows better. But when you stop and try to get back into it, it's almost like you lose that insight, or you forget, like, oh, I haven't done a story in 3 days, or, hey, I could have done 2 reels out of this one thing.
It's really kind of had to take a back seat to what I have going on with regular work and what I have going on in the shop. I do try to take pictures and videos of things, but sometimes deadlines are so super hard and super fast. They come up and you're just like, you have no time. Like, it's the last thing on your mind when you're pumping out an order that needs to be presented, or dropped off the day of or day before. So I'm not quite happy with my output. So my brother's been helping me out. He's been coming through, and I think I mentioned this earlier, but he's been sanding and doing some minor stuff in the shop just to take care of things, so I can do other things that require a lot more concentration. And it's definitely kind of a relief, because after the first couple of projects that I had him start finishing, he started picking up like what I'm looking for as far as attention to detail and so on and so forth. But eventually I'll get him spun up on some other things. This way I can relieve more of my burden. I don't say it's a burden, but relieve more of the workload. And yeah.
Well, especially the stuff that takes like a bunch of time, for example, like sanding and doing the routing and all those things that, like, you're like, man, okay, I'm batching stuff out. You're going to batch it out, then you're going to do all this stuff. But instead, you could be like, okay, here's one. Boom, start doing that, and then start the next one. And you could be finishing something while the machine's going and he's doing that other little stuff. Yeah. So, yeah, it was a smart move.
My brother will be here Thursday. He's coming. I have a whole bunch of stuff for him to do. And if I can get everything prepped, so essentially cutting boards and coasters and stuff like that, if I can get all the because I don't want him touching our router. You know what I mean? If I can get all the roundovers and the chamfers done and the etch on there, I can trust him to sand it, get it to where it needs to be. And then he can even, I've taught him how to grain pop and all that stuff and the process. And I've also taught him how to apply finish. And it's all the finish I use for this particular order is water-based, or not water-based, but food grade. So, or food safe. I don't know what you want to call it, but so I don't really worry too much. Although I do gotta say, like, have you ever? So you made those coasters with me last year, but do you remember the cork squares that you buy off Amazon for, like, I think it's like $20 for 100 or something like that, or $10 for 100. So I was showing him how to do, like, it was towards the end of the night. All we had to do was put the squares on and then put some finish on there. So I'm over here and I'm just like pumping them out. You know what I mean? Line it up, stick it. Line it up, stick it. And he's over here like, man, I messed this one up too. He's peeling it off, and I'm like, you can't reuse that. So just toss it aside. It's like, but he eventually got into his groove. You know what I mean? So, but I think we're all there at one point. You know what I mean? You're like,
oh, absolutely.
Hey, Victor asked, does this mean you're thinking of hiring an employee?
So yeah, I have been kicking the idea around of eventually hiring him on as
intern,
as an employee. Well, so here's the deal. I don't make enough from the business at the moment to justify paying for the insurance that it would, to have an employee in the shop. And now, granted, most of the stuff I have him do is outside of the shop. So he is in the front doing all this stuff. So he's not near any of the power tools. So he stays outside the shop and all that. I've been pretty conscious about that because I don't want him getting hurt, but I can't justify, filing with the state as well, saying I actually have an employee. Then I got to worry about workman's comp and all that other stuff. You know what I mean?
Certain things you got to hang up in the shop. There's a whole bunch of stuff that comes along.
For right now. Yeah. You got to have like eye wash stations and all that other stuff. And yeah, I don't need that at the moment, but eventually when I do jump to full time, it's gotta happen.
And have an actual like shop and not have to work out of your garage and stuff.
Yeah. Proper chemical storage and, your MSDSs and stuff like that. And whatever, but
you, Nap, do you think you're gonna do employees once you go full time? Thinking of it or as of right now. So who knows what's gonna happen in 5 years?
So maybe I'm kind of like the same thing with Nick as far as the maybe thing, because when it's just me, there's not a whole lot I really got to worry about other than if I jack myself up, like, well.
TRICARE.
Yeah, let me just go fix myself real quick and call it a day. But no, I've actually been tossing around the idea of actually hiring my wife as an employee, because you need a shipping department, right? And well, she knows how to do all that stuff. So I could do that, and she could also manage my schedules and all that. So you mean my secretary, pretty much, and my shipper. That's
how does she? It
sounds
this?
That doesn't sound.
It sounds ridiculous, but believe it or not, when you can pay an employee that's not necessarily working in the industrial area, because there are things on that as well. Like you have your actual industrial workers, like for example, Nick's got him doing the sanding and the finishing outside the shop. But let's say he brought him in the shop and he was doing a couple other things that would be more of a floor worker. There's different, job descriptions for certain things, and that's when it requires the certain caveats, if you will. But when you pay an employee, you actually take a loss, so it's good for tax purposes. Now, as far as actual laborers, I'm going to wait until my son gets old enough. I'll just hire him,
Well, he turns 8. There you go.
Yeah. But no, I thought about it. I plan on moving maybe somewhere close where I know some people, maybe we'll combine at some point in time. Who knows? I tossed the idea around. Maybe going back to Texas. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe Nick and I will join forces and conquer San Antonio. I don't know. We'll see. But the wife doesn't want to go back to Texas, though. That's the only
really.
Thing. She didn't. She's like, I'm always over. She's like, I'm over San Antonio. I'm like, okay. But we'll see. We'll see where we're at in 6 years when we're done with the tundra, if you will. But employees of.
I think if we figured out a way to co-own the business and join forces, I think we would be pretty formidable as far as
I think
not
we
on
both.
the not on the aspect of like putting other makers out of business. Like that's definitely something I don't want to do. But like the big shops that gouge people and stuff like that, that's something that I'm very conscious of when I'm taking orders from people. And you know, my pricing is, I'm still making good money, and I can't conscious, or like, you know, my conscience would play on me if I was absolutely just like raping people on price like that, you know, like
Yeah.
$600 for a gear stand or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and most of the time, stuff like that, you know, you're not gonna make that on solid wood. You're gonna make that on plywood. You know, maybe
I mean,
stain
I've
it.
seen both.
Yeah, I mean, but typically because of cost effectiveness, if you will. But yes, employees are a thing in the future. I'm sure. Just not sure how I'm gonna go about that. How many I'll even have if it's just one. Because honestly, like Nick's idea of, hey, you do the sanding and the finishing and all that. If you can have someone that's doing that stuff while you're doing like the other physical work,
Like even design, all that stuff saves you so much time, dude.
it is a lot of, not burden like you say, but it's just more time back to you to do the actual work and produce more.
Exactly. Increase productivity and increase output, all while not driving yourself to the loony bin when you're stretched 6 different ways, you know?
Like for example, I brought this guy in. I mean, this kind of just fits it, right? So this is one of the things that's out there lasering. There's one more. There's 3 of each hallway, so I got like B, C, and D to go. But like right now, if I had an employee, they'd be watching the laser and lining up the next job, which is what I went out and did while y'all were talking for a second there. But then that same person would be sanding this and maybe throwing the round over on it and prepping it for finish. You know, and then I could just literally go put the finish on and let it, you know, dry overnight. But I don't have that right now, so I think that would be a huge pro.
So one more thing before I'm done with my shop, by the way. So I would like to take a poll. So if you're interested in this is a yay or nay poll, all right? Should I, if you're listening or if you're a Patreon member, go ahead and sound off, whatever. Should I just put regular markings on my truck that have my company name and business phone number, or should I and just wrap that thing and make it look all tacky and completely gaudy and wrap the entire truck so there's not an inch of it that's not covered by something?
Maybe tailgate. I would honestly just do some tailgate art. That'd be it.
Tailgate
It's
art.
hard depending what truck you got, because like mine has Ram on the back.
You can take that off. Yeah.
I don't know about this one.
That's true. That's actually a pretty it's a pretty beefy logo. I don't think it's glued on.
Yeah.
Like the
My truck, the Rebels, they're pretty large. I mean, I've been thinking about doing a wrap myself. I'm not gonna lie to you. And in fact, I was talking to a car detailer down the road. He does it on the side as a side business and cleaning cars and stuff like that. And I just want to do the sides. And it's not going to be a complete wrap where I'm wrapping the entire truck. It'd just be like my logo, the name, and then my cell phone. That's not going to happen for a while.
Yeah. So what I'm worried about is I don't want to wrap a portion of the truck, like in a couple of doors and panels, and then when I go to trade it in, the wrap comes off, and now I have like faded, like semi-faded, like front and other panels, and then you peel the wrap off, and it's like brand new paint. You know what I mean?
If you get, I forget what kind of coating is. There's a coating you get for your vehicle that kind of like preserves all that, so it doesn't fade with the sun. Can't think of it right now, but I was talking. That's exactly what was my worry. And he's like, if you get this coating done, it's expensive, but like all the stuff that normally fades, all the plastic and stuff, it keeps its color. The paint doesn't fade.
I was even looking into
Ceramic
getting like a magnetic sign as well. This way I can pull it off, so it doesn't always have to be on there. Yeah,
I mean, like it's great, you know, and people recognize me in my truck. You know, they know when I'm driving around. And then I got it because like I noticed my other car, like I would show up to someone's house for a delivery, and like even though they know you're coming, you get that look of like, who are you?
Yeah,
so now when I
already
pull
at
up,
the front door.
Yeah, so like now I pull up, my logo's on the side. I can get out. I usually wear one of my shirts that says North Country Woodworking. I look like a business. You know what I'm saying? They know who I am. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I did that for a reason. I like to do the wrap sometime, but it's just to get the ceramic coating for the truck. It's like $1,000, and then for the wrap, you got to imagine how much that would cost, and it's just
wraps
it's not worth it at this
man.
moment. So,
well,
I'll eventually do that, but not this year.
Well, I was also looking at putting like mahogany step ups. You know what I mean, like Nerf bars on the thing. No, I'm playing.
Yeah, your first step on that thing, crack.
No, I mean I think it looked pretty classy, right?
You know what I've actually seen, like, and this is like way outside the scope of what we do, but there are actually remember that guy we bought? We went to buy all that lumber, and I'm getting those 2 really expensive pieces of wood with all that Wenge and all that stuff. And that dude was talking about how this dude made wood center consoles, like interiors for vehicles.
Oh yeah,
like
I've seen that. Yeah,
I was like, man, that's a whole nother level.
Next thing you know, you spill your drink and the thing expands.
Yeah. But I thought that's a pretty cool idea. I'm sure I don't know how much that's worth your while. I mean, I'm sure it was like an arm and a leg to get that done. But
once you figured out the designing and the different models, I don't think it'd be that difficult, especially with the CNC and laser, because depending on like how you do it, I mean, you could definitely knock one out.
Knock it out. When in doubt, knock it out. But yeah, man, that's about me. That's all for my shop. But yeah, we'll stand by and throughout the week, I'll check the Instagram DMs and the email and stuff like that, and see if anybody chimes in on what I should do.
You should put a story up. Put a story up with a poll.
I'll do that. Exactly. I'll do that. Like option A, just simple thing, right? Maybe even just like that magnet I spoke about. Option B, just full on tacky, gaudy looking, just blah. NPG Creations. They're gonna be like
everywhere.
Yeah. Everywhere.
So my wife brings up a good point.
Yeah.
You have to be extra aware if you're driving with the logo on the truck. I'm a great driver. I'm just going to go ahead and say that right now. Never get a ticket. Never had an accident. Knocking wood.
Jinx yourself. I'm going to tell you what USA says about me and my driving. Hang on.
But
I have a 79 driver's score.
Out of what? 1,000?
So, out of 100. So, it actually tells you like phone handling and calls, like hands-free call and all that. So, because of it, I get a 25% off discount out of 30 on my next premium.
Did you have to install a sensor in your truck?
No, it's just an app on my phone.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Now, USA tried to get me to do that too, and I was like, not today, big brother.
Yeah.
They could do that. I'm getting 25% off my insurance next time around. Don't get me wrong. North Dakota is a lot cheaper for insurance in Texas, like almost half. I'm paying half.
Yeah, you can see everyone coming from 10 miles away.
So they also measure like hard braking and stuff like that as well. So
they do.
So now what you could do is, since you text and drive all the time, you just get your regular phone, have that on there, and then you have your other phone which you can like surf Facebook.
No, so I actually, believe it or not, I stopped doing that once I started doing this whole driver thing. I just do the talk to text because it doesn't register as anything.
I verified that when I was down there. That's all he did.
Talk to text. Yeah, I do that sometimes, and it comes out different.
You know? Yeah,
what? Something about
I did that actually to Nap this last week. I'm like, hey, I'm driving, and something, and like every other word was wrong.
I asked my wife to pick me up a couple cans of dip. You can imagine what that came out as when I sent it.
Especially with the words you normally use, yeah.
But anyway, so we got any questions for this podcast or what?
So we don't have necessarily questions, but I do have. So speaking on lasers and all the things, okay. So I've been talking to, and I feel like a complete nerd now because I've definitely for some reason spaced the name here. I was talking to Snyder Custom Woodwork, and we were talking about, his big score and these things, and actually is a real quick topic we can use to finish off the episode, was based off his Facebook Marketplace buy. And I told him we talked about this a long time ago, but we ended up going off with a bunch of guests, and we just didn't have time to fit it in. So, two things. His AVID CNC that he got, okay? We'll just say the price was great. It had all the pieces. And had the actual pieces for his CNC.
It didn't have all the pieces?
No. And it also had stuff that wasn't meant for the AVID.
Oh, wow.
So it was like the guy tried putting together his own AVID. It didn't work out, so he was trying to sell it. That was number one. Number two, his laser, it's good. Laser's fine. He's just having some laser woes like everyone does when they get their, a bigger laser. But he, when we were talking about the Z stuff earlier, the up and down, so there's those 3 settings. If they're set and you don't know about them, he actually started a job and it was going, and his laser bed started to raise up on its own, and it just snapped the entire freaking nozzle off.
What?
Oh man.
Yeah, so he's got to like retap the nozzle and all this stuff, and I'm gonna end up helping him get everything fixed up and whatnot. But one of the main topic is marketplace buys. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
So this individual that sold it to him obviously was crickets when he tried to reach out to him. When you buy stuff from people from Facebook Marketplace, okay, obviously you're going to verify like they're not a crappy seller by looking at the reviews and all that. But when you go buy stuff, it may seem awesome, and I've been a culprit of this too. It seems awesome in the moment, but then when you finally get it, like all sales are final type deal, and you get back and you're like, fudge, I messed up. I mean, right now he's in the middle of a battle just trying to figure out how to get that thing together. And then his, laser,
CNC?
For CNC, but then for his laser, the guy had it hardwired. So he ended up having to like do a bunch of stuff to it to make it plug into a wall and all this other stuff. Okay. So like when you guys buy from Marketplace, like what do you guys typically do to like kind of verify like that it's legit, that you're not going to get ripped or any of those things? Because I mean, I've bought plenty of things off the Marketplace thanks to Nick. And all have been good, but I've done a couple on my own and they didn't end up being what I wanted them to be.
I typically, when I go pick it up, I typically say, hey, demonstrate to me that this works and the money shall be yours. You know what I mean? Show me that the motor's good. Show me that this tool does what it's supposed to do. And I'll make them do it because I don't want to be the one holding it when if it doesn't work or whatever, because then they're like, oh, no, man, you did that. You owe me money.
No, I did not, sir.
Yeah, so but that's really the only thing I have against it, you know what I mean? So, Josh, what about you? Because I know you bought the Glowforge. Did that guy demonstrate for you?
No, actually, he didn't. But I think they sent me a video or something of it working, and it was dated. I can't remember the actual deal. It was
dated
a while
for
ago.
A year earlier.
Typically, I do have them at least plug whatever it is in, make sure it works. You know what I'm saying? I ask right up. I'm like, what's wrong with it? Is there anything wrong with it? You know what I'm saying? If I see something, I'll point it out. Not necessarily talk it down, but just to see. I also look at the surroundings. Like when I bought my joiner and my drill press, I brought a friend from work. We were going to pick it up. It was just going to be the joiner, and his shop was clean. All his tools, including the stuff I bought, had maintenance logs. And when the next, like tune up and everything was supposed to be, like, I knew it was getting a good tool. You know what I'm saying? He plugged everything in. He made sure it was running. I knew those tools were solid. Far as going back to that Glowforge, I didn't have to plug it in because I had my kid in the car, and it was just, they brought it out to me. They carried it out. It was 2 brothers. They had it for 6 months. We talked it over, and they didn't just disappear after the purchase. Like, we were texting back and forth. They followed me on Instagram. Like, they wanted to see the stuff I was going to make with it, because basically that purchase for them was something they thought was going to be cool, something they could do something with for fun. And it didn't really turn out to be what they wanted. And it was just taking up room. So I really lucked out with that, especially because I didn't have them plug it in and demonstrate. But I haven't had, trying to think, really any issues with anything I bought, except for maybe the bandsaw I bought when I was deployed, and that was it. So, and that was just because of age. The guy was old woodworker trying to sell his tools off, and it worked for him. But once I started heavily using it, the age and the wear and tear started showing its face. And it was not on the seller at all. It was just because I had an old bandsaw that I was heavily using. So I've been pretty lucky. And when I sell, I always make sure I'm available after the purchase.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm not trying to screw anyone over. You know what I'm saying? Most of the time, I just want the money I paid for it enough so I can go do something with, get back to the shop.
So I sold Kumo that X-Carve, and I knew when he went to go put it together, he was going to have questions, So
oh, absolutely.
I made sure that I had the time that I sold it to him, TBD CNC still had a website with support. Like it still had the videos on how you can links to videos and stuff like that on how to do things. And then by the time Kumo actually put it together, the website was no longer a thing. So kind of had to back channel some stuff to find videos on YouTube and things like that. But as far as questions on what goes where, Kumo called me a couple of times, and I have no problem, especially if it's a large purchase like that, because I know how frustrating it can be to get something and you're just itching to use it, and you're trying to put it together and you're just stuck. And I think that's what stops, not even on just used stuff. I think that's what stops a lot of people when they buy an X-Carve or a machine that they have to put together and they've never done anything like that before. I think a lot of people just get to a point where they say, screw it, and they just don't put it together and they just go without it. And they're missing
then sell
out
it to someone else.
Yeah, at a cut rate.
The
second X-Carve I bought off a dude. I got it for $1,000, which was so. But it was missing upgraded parts from its original. It was original X-Carve 1000mm, and they had upgraded some things. So I had to do inventory what I had, figure out what I needed, and then a couple of times I actually made my own parts for it. So. Just out of spare pieces of metal. Actually, what are those things up that hold the curtain rods up? You know what I'm talking about? They hold curtain rods up. It's like a little loop or whatever with a piece of metal. Hook. Yeah. So I actually built brackets. I made brackets out of those, and I used it on that machine. And it's still going. Jesse 4 Woodwork still uses it. So.
So speaking of CNCs, real quick, Nick, what's going on with your Avid, bro?
Yeah,
I'm working on it.
Let's not talk about that little guy.
I'm working on it, dude. I'm working on it. That's why I'm trying to clear out December so I can get this thing, have a December to remember.
What's left? I mean, you've been working on that for a minute.
I mounted the spindle. I have to finish running the wires for the stepper motors, and then hook up the limit switches. And then I got to break the spindle in, and then I have to hook up the air to. Well, first I have to hook the air up to the spindle so it holds the chucks. But everything's ready to go. It's all right there, and I have to hand it to Avid though. They did a fantastic job with their instructions. Hint, hint, Inventables. I'm just saying. I mean, I think Inventables machines are good for what they are. I'm not going to say they suck, but I think they could have had instructions.
No, I'll say they suck. They suck. I'm telling you, they suck for 2 reasons. Okay, it was very easy for them to upgrade a lot of the parts that they sold those machines with. Things that would have made everyone's life a lot easier. Their instructions, everything. Now, for going into CNC, sure, it's a great price point. But if you look out there are better CNCs that you could buy for that price point that's going to last you longer and already upgraded for half the stuff.
They come already partially put together too.
Yeah, I mean, it just unfortunately, I used to. I used to get behind X-Carve because it was something I was using, and at the time it wasn't so bad. But as I got more experience with it, I've had to upgrade almost every part of that CNC, okay, to get it to a point where I can actually utilize it to its full potential. And it's not really even an inventable CNC right now. It's a PWN CNC with inventable parts.
I mean, might as well be.
I mean,
Yeah,
like,
that's true.
half the stuff on there is from him, and like, I would not be the same CNC. So I know he hasn't built a CNC yet, but I'm always going to claim it's a PWN CNC
I
with
can't
some
wait
inventable
until he
parts.
makes his-
Yeah, I got you. I mean, like the machine that I sold to Kumo was completely just like gutted from all its hardware except the Y1, Y2 rails and the maker slide, which is your X axis. So
The only thing I want to do is I want to do a different bed, and I've been thinking about how to do it. I got
they sell one now
They do.
for the 1,000mm. You can get the T-track bed that they have.
The extrusion bed that I got.
That's
Yeah,
what
That's
I
the
was
80-20. Yeah,
I mean-
so I got that for the Shipoko. You guys are talking about like just being bare bones. The only thing with my Shipoko that was Shipoko was the HDZ and the extrusions and the frame. Everything else was PWN CNC, 80-20, and Amazon specials.
Hey, so Josh, if you're gonna upgrade your bed on the CNC, I wouldn't even go towards inventables. I would look to see what they have and how they did it, and then I would just source all the parts from 80-20 and buy all the T-track and stuff like that.
I'm not going to buy their probably $200, $300 kit that I could buy $50 worth of materials to do it.
I think
Don't
it's a
you
lot more than
have-
that.
Don't you have some aluminum extrusion at the house?
I do, but that stuff's a little thick. That raised my CNC.
I think it's more than that, by the way, for the upgrade for that.
So mine was 600, just flat out. And this is when I was building my CNC to be as robust as I could. But aluminum. Victor puts in the chat. Aluminum.
All right, so actually, you know what? It is $219 for their full wasteboard kit. So you're right, but it doesn't look like it. Honestly, it really just looks like the MDF comes pre-cut, and there's T-track that goes underneath it. I don't know if there's any extrusion under that.
I honestly don't even care about the damn T-track. I have no interest in it. I like the way I hold stuff down now. It's easy, fast.
Speaking of that, game changer is that I've been using the composite nails to hold.
Yeah, how was that?
Dude, it saves so much time. Like I hook it up to the air compressor. I think it runs on like 100 psi, and it'll go through oak, it'll go through walnut, it'll go through cherry, right into the wasteboard. I typically, unless I'm actually like making a flag or something like that, carving out a flag, then I'll do like pressure holds with clamps. But if I'm cutting something out, you better believe that I'm finding where the bit's not going to go, and I'm sending those composite nails through there. So works fantastic. I highly recommend it.
I don't use pressure very often anymore. So I even when I do, it's more me putting stuff on the sides and pin nailing it down and then doing it that way. As long as your bed's level and the piece is level, you don't need to have it pushed down. So,
well, I'm talking pressure from the sides. Normally, that's all I do is I'll run like the clamps. I'll push them in to the sides of the piece so it holds it there. Yeah. Haven't really had any issues with the work piece coming up. So
I've never had pressure like that. I've had any issues whatsoever. And, you don't have to worry about screwing something in, taking it out, and moving it. You're not limited to, like, a certain area.
Say you're trying to get those extra pieces, like you've got the composite nails run through the piece, and you want to get the area that you didn't, the waste, you want to remove it from the bed. I just take a piece, like a 2x4, and I just tap it, like I hit it from the side, and it comes right off.
Shears.
Exactly. So,
I think there was a maker that had it and was testing it out over multiple different
Sergeant
wood
Maker
types. That's what it is, and he did an excellent job with that review. I
is that on
definitely enjoyed
YouTube
watching
or what
that.
is that?
Hang on. Sarge.
That's on Instagram.
Yeah, so let's see. I'm just making sure I get his.
I don't think he made it to YouTube, but I think it's on his page. It's posted up.
Yeah, Jeff over at Sergeant Maker on Instagram. He did a whole 3 or 4 part series. I think it might even 5-part series on the whole composite nailer thing. But it was good.
Yeah, let's wrap it up.
Like always, we want to thank I want to thank our patrons for chiming in and asking questions during the live recording of the podcast. Because if you're a patron, you can see what we're doing. You can see our faces while we're talking. Also want to thank Daniel over at PWN CNC for making this episode possible. Check them out, pwncnc.com. And for 10% off your order, use promo code Sawdust Nation 981. And that's off every item on Daniel's page. So do us all a favor. Go to his page, load your cart up with the Noah's Ark special. That's 2 of everything, and hit buy. All right? But don't forget the promo code. And also want to thank Total Boat for their continued support. If you want 10% off your Total Boat order, slide into our Sawdust Nation podcast DMs on Instagram, and we will hook you up with that promo code. And big thanks to our affiliates, which is going to be makerstock.com. If you want 10% off your order at makerstock.com, use promo code Sawdust10. And last but not least, thanks to OhmTech for being our friend. But Nap, what's going on, buddy?
Yeah, so check it out. If you're listening to us onto the old Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, whatever other podcast catchers are out there, give us 5 stars. And if you don't give us 5 stars, let us know why you didn't give us 5 stars so we can give you what you want, what you really, really want. But if you do give us 5 stars, still give us some feedback, give us some topics, give us some questions. I know, and to be fair, life's been busy, and we haven't been able to throw up hey, what questions you got for the podcast? But we'll try to be better about that so we can remind y'all. Because sometimes you need a little reminder if you got something on the mind that you want to hear from us. But if you do want to hear from us, you can get a hold of us at where, Josh?
So if you want to get a hold of us, you can get a hold of us on the Instagram. And that's easy to do. Just look up Sawdust Nation Podcast and send us a message. One of us will answer. You never know who it is, but that's half the fun. Reach us individually. You can go ahead and do that by reaching out to Nap from Nap's Nutty Works LLC, Nick from MPG Creations, and myself, Josh from North Country Woodworking. And if you don't like social media, that's fine. We have a Gmail account. You can reach out to us on there, and that's sawdustnationpodcast@gmail.com. Same thing. Send us a message. Show us what you're working on. It's an easy way to get a hold of us. We've already talked about the Patreons and what the benefit of that is. Nick already hit on that. So let's go into final words, starting with Nap.
Hey, folks. So, like always, as Nick always starts his off. No, but seriously, so the community is ever growing, and we don't grow without each other. If you haven't had a chance, go take a look at the Makers Camp IG at the Makers Camp, because they just did a huge thing this past weekend, which is the annual Makers Camp, which I hope to make next year. Hopefully these 2 knuckleheads will join me, because it looked like a hell of a fun time. And honestly, that's how the community is built right there, is off fun times and setting really big, weird-looking rabbit deer things on fire. I don't know what it was, but it was a really big bonfire. It looked like a whole lot of fun, and a bunch of makers that we knew got to show their skills and some of the stuff they've been making to help make our lives easier in the shop. But yeah, just keep building this community, helping each other out. And Nick, what you got, bud?
Folks, take care of yourselves and each other. And until next time, this is Nick Papa Giorgio signing off.
Whoa, I don't think a lot of people know what MPG stands for, but you know.
Yeah, that's MPG stands for
Actually,
Nick Papa Giorgio.
If you listen to the podcast, you know, because we go through why he named his shop the way it is. So yeah, if you listen to the podcast, you can go search for that. And if you tell me what episode that is, you get a surprise. Anyway, so with that, thank you for listening to the 120th episode. And we're hoping that you listen in the car, making that cup of coffee, at breakfast, in the shop, at the gym. We don't care where you listen to us. We just want to whisper in your ear. And with that, we're going to say adios, go make some sawdust, and
Sawdust Nation out.
about,
it.
dude. All right, buddy. Good night, buddy.
Good night, all.
Man, he's gotten big.
And
Dude, he's freaking huge. Hey, but we got Workbench Con, coming up, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to be able to attend. So I'm pretty excited about that. I already told the wife,
you
hey, I'm
better.
going to be gone for 3 days.
There will be kidnapping. I swear to God, I'm going to show up at your door, hood over your head, drag you out.
Please do, because that way I have an excuse.
Oh, no. He got in the truck willingly.